welcome to the ThinkReactLead show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette. This show, we're going to talk about maintaining composure and being poised. So the reason we're talking about this, it came up in conversation twice over the last 2 weeks, one with a client, one with somebody I was just having a conversation with. And being poised is that thing that allows your voice to be heard without you coming across as arrogant or cocky or even loud. And it allows you to control a scenario. Let me share a story with you. When I was a cop, I was dispatched to a home for a domestic violence call. I get there, I pull up, and the moment, it was cold outside, so I had my windows up, but the moment I opened my door, I could hear yelling from the inside of their house. I heard it all the way through the outside. When their windows were closed, their front door was closed, there was so much disturbance going on in that home that that sound, that negative sound flowed through the outdoors. And as I'm walking up to the door, I'm thinking about, okay, like, I don't know what's behind this door. I could knock and somebody starts shooting through the door. Like, that's happened before. Or you get inside and both parties, male and female, who are fighting each other, turn against you. So I walked up to the door and I didn't knock. I just opened the door. I opened the door. I walked in, went into the refrigerator. Just so happened they had some High C's. High C is a little kid's box drink. Grabbed a High C. It was Hawaiian Punch. I put a straw in it. And they were in the front room arguing and yelling and cursing. And it hadn't dawned on them that somebody else was in their house. It did, but they were still going at it. And I just sat on the sofa and I just started drinking the High C. And immediately, once I sat down, about 10 seconds went by, and then they stopped and they looked, and both of them simultaneously said, "What are you doing?" And I looked at them and I asked the same question. "What are you doing?" And they went on to say, "We live here. Like, you're not doing your job." And what I thought was pretty funny in that scenario was, as we're talking about being poised and maintaining composure, sometimes in adverse situations, was the fact that they were expecting that if a cop shows up, I'm going to start yelling. I'm going to start doing what they expected me to do, which would in turn escalate the situation. They would start yelling back at me. Oftentimes a fight ensues, but that caused that scenario, that situation, to just calm down. I maintained my composure. I didn't even raise my voice. I was talking to them the same way I'm talking to you right now. And and this was a decade and a half ago. Shoot, it was actually 17 years ago. I've used scenarios like that, or that approach to, let's call them crucial conversation, over the years. And whether it would have been in a relationship, a business relationship, peer-to-peer communication, maybe from a boss. Oftentimes people operate in a space of negative emotion. They're charged. For some reason, they're just charged. So as we talk about this, I want you to think about an instance in your life, recent or in the past, and some of you will be able to use this going forward, where if you would have maintained your composure, the results would have ended in your favor. Because there's always results, good or bad, but you always want them to end in your favor. Let's talk about being poised. A guy asked me, he said, I coach in the space of the tactics. And he does the firing range. He teaches people how to engage their weapons. And we're talking like homeowners, people, you're a novice that owns a gun. He takes them to the firing range and he goes through drills. But one of his problems, he stated, was he talks too fast, and he doesn't know how to maintain composure as it relates to his voice and have that vocal command and still be soft and approachable at the exact same time. See, I learned to do that just one being a kid, always yelling and running around. And then I took it serious when I was K9 in the military, because we have a dog and you send them out to attack. You have to be able to use inflection in your voice specific to that dog to get the dog off of the suspect that he's attacked. He or she has attacked. My dog was a male, Clint. And over a period of time, you just become comfortable with who you are as a person. So we're going to start there. When you're comfortable with who you are as a person, it makes it so much easier to become poised and maintain self-control. We're going to talk about being poised first and having a poised approach vocally. If you think of an actor who's always poised, this is just his role, his character, James Bond. Every James Bond character, no matter who it's being played by, is poised. They walk in with an air of confidence, but not cocky. They walk in with a sense of control. They walk in a room and they know exactly where they're going to sit. They know exactly what they're going to say. They know exactly how they're going to say it. And they typically can determine what the response is of the person that they're talking to. That's control. And the way you do that is by practicing in your home environment. Now, as a dad, I can tell you right now, it doesn't work on my 11-year-old. It just does not. I've tried it, and he's probably the only person in this world that in a weird way gets under my skin. He just does some of the stupidest things, but I did the same thing at 11 and 12 and probably 13, 14 on, till I joined the military, and even then on. But whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. Being poised in any situation, maybe it's a networking event, again, maybe it's at home, maybe it's your next job interview. Being poised allows you to, or on stage, allows you to be able to communicate whatever your message is, but you have to know your message. And it allows you to do it without the nervous twitch of the lip, which some people have, the nervous twitches of the eyebrows, which some people have. Maybe that weird shake in the leg, right, that some people have as they're trying to disseminate information, but there's emotion being drawn to do so. So what we're going to talk about is controlling the emotion in assistance with being poised when we come back from break. But I want you to think about how you want to be perceived, what you want your public image to be, no matter how small or big the public that you're referring to is. What do you want to be perceived as? So when you start from there, reverse engineer, guess what? And you start working backwards to get to the result, things become easier and you're more dialed in to where it is you want to go as it relates to the character that you're building from within, specific to being poised and having composure. When we come back from break, we're going to talk more about that. Again, I'm Dom Faussette, your executive coach and leadership speaker, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey, welcome back to the Think React Lead Show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, your executive coach and leadership speaker. Now, being poised is not, because that's what we're talking about, is not just that very solemn, methodic, melodic approach to communicating. No, it's really starts with knowing who you are. So let's talk about who you are emotionally. A phrase my dad used to always use growing up was, there's no emotions in business. And he didn't use it with us because we weren't in business. I was like 10. But I would hear him say it on the phone, no emotions in business. And my dad's been self-employed for quite some time. Never seen him. I've never heard him curse, never seen him get overly excited. And that's because he's gone into situations knowing what he wants the outcome to be. Now, you have to understand that when you can see and understand that people have bad days, right? You shouldn't let people get under your skin. People have bad days. They have things going on in their life that you're never going to be privy to. So oftentimes, and this is what takes people out of their composure, is typically other people. So when somebody attempts to take you out of your composure, don't take it personal. And I'm talking about people outside of your home. Don't take it personal. And then you can even apply this to inside of your home as well. It's, what do you want to be seen as? One of the tricks I used to play with myself when I would be at work and something would get under my skin, this was years ago when I had a job, or I would just be in a situation where somebody would get under my skin. Two things. One, I'd have to remind myself, Dom, do not allow this person to have this much control over you. Cool. Two, imagine every conversation with you standing in front of 1,000 people and you're having a one-on-one conversation with this person that gets under your skin. And then think about it this way. People stop getting under your skin when the skin that you're operating in is yours. So in order to get under your skin, there has to be like a coat. Imagine a mask. Oftentimes people put on a mask. And this is a metaphor, but they go outside trying to be somebody. They go out into the world trying to be somebody they are not. And when you traverse this world trying to be somebody that you're not, that's when your feelings start to get hurt. Now, when you can control your feelings, now you just need to know, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish today? All right, today, and this is a very simple example. And I'm not using this example because of an example that the producer of the show, camera guy sitting behind the cameras, explained. So I'm just putting that out there so he doesn't take offense to what I'm about to say. You know that you're going to leave your house and you're going to go to work. All right, cool. End result is work. Even ender, which is not a word, we're going to go with that. The furthest end result is you want to have a good day in the office. Cool. But in order to do that, you have to get to the office first. Now, many of you, like my wife travels an hour to work. Hassan, he travels 40 minutes, 50 minutes sometimes to get to one of his studios. Now you have to come across hundreds, and you're going to pass or see hundreds of other vehicles, which means you're going to see hundreds of other drivers. Who are we to assume that everybody's going to drive in the fashion that we want them to? I'm glad everybody doesn't drive like me. And then who's to assume that somebody's not going to flip you off or cut you off or do any of these things? See, when you know that there's potential for these things to happen, I'm going to call them emotional obstacles. See, many of you, somebody cuts you off. Guess what happens? You get irritated. Another cop story. I was leaving the precinct, so the cop station, and I get on the freeway. I'm entering the freeway and trying to get over to the carpool lane, and this guy just cuts me off. I'm like, why would he cut me off? Like, what's wrong with this guy? And immediately, granted, I'm 23, 24. I didn't think like a cop. I thought like a driver being cut off by a jerk. And then I switched back, like, oops, I'm a cop. I can't like do any of the things. I was hot-headed back then. But it did not affect my job as a cop. So I pulled the guy over just for driving erratically. And I went to his window and I did the typical cop thing. Sir, do you know why I pulled you over? He says, yes, I'm driving crazy. I said, well, that's the first time. In my head, I'm thinking, that's the first time somebody's just that blunt and honest. Why are you driving this way? And he goes to tell me, and I'll never forget this. He says, I got a call a couple minutes ago that they're about to take my daughter off of life support. And that if I wanted to say my last words, I need to come now. I didn't give him a ticket. I escorted him so he could get there safely at a high rate of speed to the hospital. Never talked to that man again. But going forward, when people would cut me off, I wouldn't get mad. Like, not as a cop. At this time, I'm not a cop. I'm just a regular civilian, and I'm driving, and people would cut me off. I wouldn't get mad, because what if that person is driving to the hospital because they're about to take their child, their spouse, somebody they love off of life support? Now, is that the case all the time? Probably not. But again, I don't know, because I'm not in their car to ask them. So why would I get mad and let somebody have that much control? So think about it this way. Go through your day knowing nobody's going to have control over your emotions. And once you are able to establish that thing, not letting people have control, now you can communicate effectively. Let's say let's say you have a boss and they talk to you in a wrong way. It doesn't sit right with you. Instead of making a statement, because we make a statement when somebody wrongs you, the average person knows when they've wronged you. And again, we're talking about composure and being poised. And this ties into leadership. Good leaders they have this increased level of emotional intelligence. And that's really what we're talking about. Somebody wrongs you verbally. Say it's your boss. You don't make a statement. When you make a statement, it's coming from a place of angst, a negative emotion, because your feelings were hurt. Instead, ask a question. And whatever the reason is, your boss verbally hurt your feelings, or your spouse verbally hurt your feelings, You start with a question from your point of view. So the question is, are you okay with me sharing something about my feelings to you? Like, just the word feelings in any conversation puts the other person on like they're no longer on the defense. It puts them at ease because they know that you're about to share something about you to them. Now, what this does for you, when you make a stated question, are you okay with me sharing something about my feelings with you? It almost puts you in a space of getting ready to share something with somebody and be vulnerable. And then they say yes. They're always going to say yes. They say yes. When you talk to me that way, it hurts my feelings. And when my feelings are hurt, it doesn't allow me to respond in the way that I know I need to respond in, say, this scenario. So can we come up with a better solution for how you're going to, you might be able to communicate with me specific to something that might not rub you the wrong way or right way in the future? Yes, it takes practice to be able to do that, and think that way in the moment. I get it. It does take practice. But the more you practice that and the more you implement it, the more control over your emotions you're going to be. Because people that lack emotional control, you end up losing opportunities. You lose business opportunities. You lose relationships. You lack the ability to forgive. You lack the ability to see, the forest through the trees. And the goal is to maintain composure, be poised in your stance, in how you verbally communicate, in your body language, in your temperaments. Like, that's going to help you win in every single scenario. Now, once you've done that, you'll do it over and over and over again. And it's called practice. And then what happens is your vocal command and your vocal inflection ends up providing opportunities that people just say they want to be around you. They're like, this guy's just calm. This lady's she's just a calm individual. There's something about them that they have, as I call it, command presence. Now, having command presence like that would be the ultimate goal. Your presence is internal, so everything inside of you emotionally, and then you're external. Right? Everything outside of you. So when we come back, we're going to talk about engaging command presence, utilizing the tips that I've provided and the benefits to them. And again, I'm Dom Faussette. This is the Think React Lead show, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Think React Lead show. Let's continue to do the Dom thing. We're talking about being poised and maintaining composure. I remember my first speaking engagement outside of the state of Arizona. And this was my second big non-corporate speaking engagement. And I crushed it. I went there and I showed up with all the things. I had my own camera equipment, had a camera crew, my step and repeat, I had my branded vehicles there. Like, it was a good setup. Built a lot of relationships that day, but there's a guy named Mark Garreau. And this is like 4 or 5 years ago. I was still working, matter of fact. I still had a job. And I'm in San Diego. And after everything's said and done, I'm exchanging phone numbers with a bunch of different speakers and other people. And this guy, Mark, pulls me aside. And he says, hey, man, you're new to the game. You're going to do great. You're going to be outstanding. You're going to build a solid brand. You'll be a great speaker, but just keep it cool. Like, you're going to get all these phone numbers and you're going to want to reach out to people. Half the people aren't going to reach back out to you. Don't worry about it. Just be cool. That little tidbit of advice 5 years ago, as it relates to how I engage different people, was a game changer for me. It allowed me to text people, because in most people's industry, you're going to meet people that you might be a fan of, or you might look up to, if you will, and until typically you meet them in person. And more often times than not, you realize they're just a person just like you. But opportunities are going to come up. People are going to promise you things. Hey, when you get back home, let's connect. And it's fine, but you're going to text people and they're not going to text you back. Don't worry about it. You have to find a way to get on their radar. If there's something they have that you want, whether it's the relationship aspect of it, maybe you just want to remind them of the podcast that they promised to have you on. Don't be so hung up on holding people to their words. I get it. I wish everybody was a man of their word. They're not. And I have also learned that there have been times that I've had things going on in my life. Like I remember I got asked to speak out of state. I think it was in Texas. In the same 60-second period, I get a text message that says, "Hey man, call me about you speaking in Texas." The next text message I get from either my dad saying, "Your mom's in the hospital. She's not doing well." I get to the hospital first before I call the guy, and I call the guy, and I just got finished crying because I saw my mom, and I straightened up, got on the phone, we talked business, and he said, "Can you be in Texas?" It was 2 days later to speak. I just said yes. Right? I didn't go into, I don't know, my mom this, my mom, because nobody cares about your problems. Oftentimes, you don't even care about your problems. So don't put increased expectations of how somebody should perceive and emotionally respond to your personal problems. You just hold on to those problems. And remember, at the top of this show, I said there's no emotions in business. Hold on to that. And when we come back from break, we're going to talk about how holding on to the no emotions aspect of that is going to actually, you know what, before we go to break, let me do this. Hold on to the no emotions in business, but understand, I also want you to hold on to the fact that nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. If you're grown, your parents don't owe you anything. They don't owe you an explanation as to how they raised you. It would be nice to get that. They don't owe it to you, right? Nobody owes you anything. You owe you everything. Start there. Control everything in the space that you owe yourself, and you'll be able to develop past that negative emotion. So I had to get that out there because I didn't want to start the next segment without having had said that. So do the Dom thing. Control your emotions. And when we come back, we're going to talk about ways to leverage these things I'm teaching and showing you and advising you that you can use to monetize most situations that you're in. Again, I'm Dom Faussette, your executive coach and leadership speaker, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the ThinkReactLead show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, your executive coach and leadership speaker. All right. Composure. Just maintaining it all of the time. You know what I have found? I have found that holding space for gratitude in your day, starting your day, has helped me maintain my composure. You know, I'm at a point in my life now where I say things out loud, and I've been doing this I remember doing it. I moved out to Arizona in a busted down minivan. Minivans have 3 rows of seats. I had the back seat, the front seats, the driver and passenger. Seat in the middle, gone. I don't know what happened to it. So I packed all my stuff in that empty space. Somewhere there was gas leaking in the engine. I don't know, but every time I parked, you could smell it. Like I had a horrible AC didn't work, and you don't move to Arizona in June with your AC not working. If you're ever in Arizona and you see somebody in the summer months riding around with their windows down, as my grandmother used to say, you don't want to test me, boy. Do not test them. They are living a life that you don't know about. And I say that because it's hot in Arizona. It's so hot that when you're driving, you feel needles hitting you. That's just what it feels like when you don't have AC. If you're in Arizona and you're watching this and you've never been in a vehicle with no AC in the summer months here in Arizona, you're blessed. Kudos to you. I was able to trade that van in for a manual Hyundai Accent with roll down windows. Coming from where I came from, every day I got into that car, it was clean inside and outside. And I had gratitude towards having a vehicle that I don't have to question how, like, is it going to get me to work? I never questioned that because I was in a position to be able to afford to fill up my gas tank. And I was in a position, like, it feels good when you go from having NSFs, which those are non-sufficient funds fees, or non-sufficient funds when back in the day when you used to spend $5 and you get charged $35 because you went $1 over, that's an NSF. But in the moment, I was able to fill up my gas tank. Granted, it was like $30, but that was a lot for me. I had AC in my car. I could drive from one end of the valley to the other end, knowing, not questioning whether or not I'd break down. So I was grateful for that. And then slowly but surely, I started to get blessed and I started to receive things. I mean, I worked for the things that I received, but there were some doors opening for me that I never even planned on them opening. And I say all that to say is, when you find yourself in a space of showing gratitude and being grateful for what it is that you currently have, when things pop up, obstacles happen, you don't flip out. Like, there is literally no reason for anybody to flip out. I can't think of one. And you're probably, your negative mind, instead of saying right now, you're absolutely correct, your negative mind is going to a space of trying to pull all these different reasons as to why you would flip out. Flipping out is never attributed to gaining results. I kick in a door, and it's say when I was a cop, not now, but when I was a cop, I kick in a door, a couple shots get popped off towards me. Me flipping out is going to get me killed. No, I default to training, cover and concealment, right? My heart rate didn't even increase because I expected that to happen. I'm kicking in somebody else's door who's typically a drug dealer, right? Or I'm serving a warrant. A shot or two is going to come my way. Or they're going to throw, more often times than not, people threw stuff at me because nobody wants to kill a cop and go to prison for that, in my experience and what I did. But think about everything that you have access to right now. If you're watching this, 9 times out of 10, you're in a developed country. And you have access to things that most of the world doesn't have access to. You might think most of the world has access to these things. They don't. Right? If you drank fresh water this morning, be grateful. If you woke up in a bed this morning, if you woke up this morning, be grateful. See, once you start your day with gratitude, everything else just kind of falls in its place. And maybe you have a hiccup or a glitch in the morning. That's not going to be your whole day. People say one bad thing happens and they say, oh, if bad things happen to me in threes. Well, you put it out there, it's going to happen. You may not believe it. Whether you believe it or not, just don't put it out there. Think about the end result. So, building relationships with the right people is going to be the thing that allows you to develop further in your business. It's going to be the thing that allows people to want to work with you, want to engage with you, want to see you, right? When I met my wife, I wasn't the only person that was interested in her, but I was the most interesting person interested in her. I was kind, I was compassionate. I wasn't talking at her, I was talking with her. And we obviously ended up getting married, but you have to make people want to be around you, right? There's a book by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. He talks a lot about that. I talk about that in my book, ThinkReactLead, When Success and Accomplishments Aren't Enough. If you haven't purchased it, go ahead and you can go on Amazon and type in Dom Faussette, and the book's there. And remember when I talked about practice, right? When a couple shots fired at me, kicked in the door, and my training caused me to take cover and concealment without questioning my next move. Communication is the same way. Verbal communication, body communication, right? The more you do it in a positive light, the better you're going to be at it. The less stress you're going to be. And this is going to help you in your business. Many of you are going to have business partners. And we'll talk about like when to get one and all those things on a different episode. But when you have a business partner, everything's hunky-dory. Everything's great until money starts coming in. That's typically when argument starts to take place. When I engage in a partnership, and there's no defined lines, like for example, I'd say what I have with the guy that's running all these cameras, Hassan, is a partnership, but there are defined lines. As much as I urge him to get in front of the camera, I, to no avail, have had no luck. So there's obviously defined lines in our relationship. He's the guy behind the camera. I'm the guy in front of the camera. Although I've learned a lot about behind the camera stuff, And I hope he's learned about some things in front of the camera as he's sitting back there smiling. He's shaking his head no. But there's defined lines, but oftentimes there's not defined lines. So the question to ask out loud with your partner is, let's talk about 3 reasons this won't work, right? You start that conversation again with the end in mind. If you can address the 3 reasons why this partnership, as you're talking to a potential business partner or a potential partner in a relationship, 3 reasons why you think this won't work. Now you get to see where their head's at. They might say, you lying to me. You see that being truthful to them is very important. Money, right? So we talk about the finances, or not being a man of your word. It used to bother the heck out of me when somebody wasn't a man of their word. But who am I to place my standards, to place my non-negotiables on somebody else? I'm not that important. Like my mom and my niece think I'm like cool and famous. My niece really thinks I'm famous. She actually tells her friends at school that I'm a celebrity. She's 10. I'm so excited about that. But she's the only one. Nobody else cares. So don't put your feelings, your emotions, your standards, your non-negotiables, your thought processes on other people. Instead, diversify your associations so you can understand people's different perspectives. The different, how do I say this before in a previous episode? If the 5 closest people to you act like you, think like you, believe like you, sound like you, and speak like you, you will never grow. Think about that. Diversify your associations. That also is going to allow you to be more poised. I can have a 5-minute conversation with somebody, not ask them if they traveled abroad. And based off the way they communicate, I'll immediately know if they've traveled outside of America. There's just something that happens when you step out of your comfort zone and travel outside of your state, travel outside of your country, travel to other countries, right? There's a certain level of patience it takes to sit on an airplane for 11 hours or 8 hours. And like, there's just things that you do in your life should be pulling you to be greater. They should be pulling you to see life from a different perspective. They should be pulling you to come from a space of understanding. And as long as you come from a space of understanding, void of judgment, for example, when you ask any question to anybody, you always ask not having a preconceived answer. So for example, I'll ask my friend, hey bud, do you want to go to the racetrack this weekend? My preconceived answer is he's going to say yes. But then when he says no, like I've already set myself up to receive a yes. Now I'm forced to receive a no and I get irritated. That's a very elementary example, but you know, I'm utilizing that because I don't know your life. Ask void of a preconceived answer. Every question that you ask, even simple questions like, hey, are you having a good day? Or how's your day going? That person might not be having a good day. So when you leave space, I want to save you time and energy. When you leave an open space, an open mind to receive whatever their answer is, your retort is going to match and be calm and be okay with how it flows with them, like your response. So think about that. It's going to make you a better leader. It's going to make you a better spouse, a better parent, a better friend. It's going to make you, you're going to start to appreciate the person you see in the mirror. And the goal is to think as an executive, react like a soldier, and lead in everything that you do. But that comes with training, that comes with practice, that comes with daily implementation. And maybe you're thinking, well, Dom, I don't really how can I implement this daily? You come in contact with people daily. Maybe you don't leave the house. Some of you work from home. Some of you are gamers, right? You're still talking to people. I'm not a gamer, so I don't really have an example of how you could use that, but I'm talking about how you communicate with people and how you come across, right? When you start doing that, you stop finding yourself in a space of rushing. You wake up earlier. You have no anxiety when you wake up. You're not stressed about what the day might provide, what negative things might happen during the day. They won't happen if you don't put it out there. And then when obstacles come about, you address them, you move on. You don't hold on to them. And when you start to operate this way, those people closest to you begin to operate this way. So I want you to think about What's the next conversation you can have with somebody where you can practice being poised, where you can implement everything you've just learned and heard here to your daily life, there where you can develop stronger relationships and you can develop even better relationships, even with those people that you've known for 4, 5, 6 years plus. How do you come across poise? Start with questions. As long as you start with questions, it's going to make it easier for you to develop a conversation and relationships with people. And it's going to make you not just the person that's comfortable to be around, but it's going to make you comfortable with self. And it's going to allow you to engage an increased level of command presence. And then everywhere you go, whether you're on a podcast being interviewed, whether you're on this show being interviewed, whether you're on Fox News, or you're on stage, or you're at a networking event, or at home, or at a kid's baseball game, and the ump is really messing up on their calls, it doesn't matter. You're going to be in a space to win. Again, I'm Dom Faussette, your executive coach and leadership speaker. Have a fantastic day.